Good afternoon from a rather cloudy Belfast. Summer's been and gone. We're looking at the ability for creditors to chase people for foreign debts in the UK principally. I'm Terry Bell, Chairman of Bell & Company in EU Property Solutions, and it's EU Property Solutions that are really presenting this. It's an area of work that we're doing, we're finding a lot more inquiries coming through. And this was proven by the fact when we did a website review the other day, the most searched landing page or content was about how you can be chased for debts in the UK, for foreign debts and mortgages. We are using this to impart the knowledge that we have in this particular field, which we've developed over quite a period, about 15 years just in this, principally since the last financial crash. And over that time, we developed a specific cross-jurisdictional ability to deal with issues as they arise. We do this with the backdrop that all lenders are different and they change their own terms and conditions, they get taken over, various things happen. But one of the most important things I want to get across here is the importance of how you take a mindset to how you're going to deal with any sort of foreign property debt issue. And we have to then use, once we have that position, we can look at the incredible amount of misinformation that's out there. There's an incredible amount of garbage spoken by people that should know better, also known as in the main solicitors, be they foreign or be they UK. Finally, at the end of this webinar, there's going to be a couple of offers here. One is that I will offer 15 minutes of my time to review any case you've got in a truncated sense of what your concerns may be, fears, worries, something you've been told to see if it's right. And we've got various 15-minute slots that we'll offer out. And if anybody wants a chat about anything that's on their mind, we can go through it then. So, but the details of it at the end, there's a bit of a resource centre as well that one of the guys is going to send through to you. So, why am I qualified to comment? Right, I have over 35 years of experience in the debt industry, not the sexiest industry, but it's something I'm very good at. And we have principles that apply across the board in terms of what we do in the debt world in the main, and then we've added the technicals from each and every country that we get involved in. And I'll come back in a minute. We literally work worldwide in this sort of stuff, America, New Zealand, etc. But we go and find out exactly what the situation is there. There's one small tactic I'm going to share with you later, which is absolute gold dust. And if we never talk again, make sure you use that. But we find out the technicals in these various countries, and then we can deal with it. We only ever act for the client. We've been approached by a couple of Spanish banks to see if we'd help them in terms of what they do, and declined because essentially I like to work for the underdog. If you've been wronged, if you want to take the missold angle, you won't win. But if you've been wronged, we're here to support you and get through that. And as I say, we've applied this sort of cross-jurisdictional approach on everything we do. And it's understanding we do, in another side of our business, we do what's called litigation management, where we see where that case should go, not just down to our legal friends. We want to know what the commercial outcome is going to be rather than getting wrapped up in court appearances and etc as much as we can. We drive it with our teams that we have particularly in Spain and Cyprus, our legal teams. We instruct, right? They give advices, we instruct for and on behalf and with you. I'm always looking at continually educating myself in terms of what's going on. I'm sadly a reader of the Financial Times, if only just to be nosy, to see what's going on in these different countries. So, for instance, in Spain, you're getting more and more consolidation of the banks, which I'll refer to later. And I have to work out what effect that's going to have for our clients, especially those that are on board, and the situation may change. And they do change. There's no 100% guarantee in this, but in a minute I'll explain we have a 100% record. I have quite a good BS-ometer. So if anyone wants to give me a bit of bull, we can work that out as well. And again, that comes with our demographic. I think mainly we're speaking to people of my age. And I make my own mind up from there, which might sound a bit cocky and arrogant, but it's not. This is what I do for a living, so I need to know what I'm doing. I'm very proud of what our team do. So we have to make our own mind up. We take the commercial decisions with our clients. We have a claim, and it's totally valid and justified. We have a 100% record in terms of what we do for our clients, because we only take on cases where we can achieve a good outcome for our clients in whatever form that is. We don't take flyers, we don't take wins, we don't take litigation you can't win, because no point. It's not the right advice. Other solicitors say, oh, let's have a big punch up. We say no. If you are where you are and there's a good deal on the table, there's one we're looking at the minute in Cyprus. They should take the deal that's an offer. It's great, but they say, oh well, we're not sure about this. But that's the right advice. You want legals, you'll be there forever. So we give the right advice. So that's why I'm qualified to comment. Even if somebody comes on late in the day, we'll take the case on. I'll give you a précis of a case that we dealt with in Cyprus with our barrister in Cyprus. We're fortunate enough to have a very technically astute and very aggressive little man, a barrister who is excellent. He's also qualified to work in the UK. So bit of a ramble, but that's why I'm qualified to comment, I think, in terms of this subject. I want us to look briefly as well at why you can be chased for foreign debt in the UK. Again, a lot of this goes under misinformation, and like I say, I'm going to sort of a little bit of psychobabble in a minute on how we should deal with things. Some people look for something they want to hear. So up till recently, Brexit was deemed to be a case where we could break away from the EU statute and the whatever the courts are, the highest courts in the land, all that sort of highest courts. Brexit has absolutely no bearing at all on the ability for, especially an EU company, to chase into the UK. Basically, if your country of residence and or the country of the creditors is in what's called the OECD, which is a great big economic unit, you will be chased for it. There will be cross-jurisdictional pacts, etc., that allow you to be chased for debt. The only countries, for instance, that aren't in there are the slightly iffy ones. Dubai, Malta, where all now the oligarchs go, and Afghanistan. So it's that sort of country that's not in there. So everybody else. This is then supplemented by old statute under the Hague Convention. You've got the Administration of Justice Act in 1920, and you've got the Foreign Judgments Act of 1933. All of that says, no matter what you hear from anybody else, you will be and can be chased. And they apply everywhere. If you decide to move from the UK to the States, you can still be followed for it. Because if we had a client who thought it was quite clever, but wasn't, to move to New Zealand and try and set up, but left £100,000 of debt in the UK, Experian is now a cross-world thing, so it basically that caught up with you in the long term. Work on the premise, if you owe or fear debt coming down the track, you can be chased and you will be chased, and debt never goes away. If it's ignored, it gets worse. Something I'm going to go to a little bit later, especially we're finding in Cyprus, where they're now compounding interest, which is a brutal tactic. And again, that case I'll show you of the gentleman that came very late in the day to us, what happened there. A couple of points, if I may, on misinformation that's out there. This is a psychobabble. One of the main causes or elements of misinformation comes from your own mind, right? All brains are programmed to avoid conflict, bad news and pain. It's just a natural thing to do. Okay, so if you've got some, sometimes I say if you've made the one mistake of buying an inappropriate property, it will never get its value back, and it's interest-only mortgage, and the debt never seems to catch up with the value. I often refer to it as the mad aunt in the loft. You don't really want to talk about it. So it's very important that if you're trying to resolve it, otherwise just the things you want to hear will come to you, and that may include barroom lawyers. There's a fella over there having a beer and he said this, and that resonates with what you want to happen, but he's got no basis, no justification or things like that. Then that's a barroom lawyer. Don't Google it. It's a bit like if you've got a medical condition or you feel a bit ill and you Google it, and it'll tell you somewhere that you're dying, right? And it could be really innocuous. Don't believe forums. Forums are typically, if anyone's on forums and love forums, I apologise, but full of very angry people. Right, and it doesn't solve the problem. Again, it's that mindset. Oh, that suits our argument. We're going to do that. Don't wait for Hail Marys. Hail Marys is that American football term where they hurtle the ball down the length of the pitch. Don't wait for things that you think might come round. And again, I'm going to come back in a minute to the fact that we are a certain demographic. You often hear about statute of limitations being touted around, very often by solicitors who, bless them, I'm not a fan of solicitors, I'll put that up there, saying that if you haven't heard for a certain period, it's gone. No, it hasn't. No, it hasn't. They only have to reach out to you at your last available address, and if you ignored it, didn't get the post, that's neither here nor there. It's very hard and very, very rare for anything to be statute barred. That said, we had a case in our business side of things here on the 6-year basis here, but it's very hard to actually, for that to stand any sort of merit, as I say there, when it comes to a defence. Other points of misinformation. One of my favourites, foreign advisors, which are trying not in any way xenophobic, racist, whatever, right? But the number of times we've seen people really badly let down by Cypriot lawyers and Spanish lawyers in the main, French lawyers. We've had a couple of dust-ups over time. They are you're just vulnerable. They play on it. They charge far less than us, and that for a reason. And the number of times we've seen people literally waste money. They're cheap. They're shocking in their approach, and they take the money and don't give a monkeys. Is the high 90% experience I have of that sort of carry on. Then you've got your UK advisors. So if you get a letter from a mortgage company, a vulture fund, whoever, a Spanish solicitor say, very often we find UK advisors, particularly the solicitors, speak out of their brief. This is a really, really a real niche, a real fine niche you're dealing with. The fact your solicitor did a great job on selling your house or set up the will does not mean they've got any idea about a letter from, say, UCI or SkyCAC or any other sort of type of lender chasing you in the UK. They'll don't you worry about this, I'll deal with this. Not a notion. Be very careful whoever you appoint in the UK. And within reason, in the foreign climes, don't appoint just somebody, if it's somebody, even you need to get the best referrals about that solicitor. They did a good job. There are some, not many, but there are some. We have kissed many a frog along the way. We have an outstanding legal team in Spain, and as I say, a great barrister in Cyprus. So on the misinformation, this is the reason I'm bringing it up and slightly labouring it, is don't anchor on what you want the outcome to be. You've got to be reasonable. You've got to be accepting of the situation, and it doesn't want to be devoid of reality. If you have a problem, you have a problem. It's a case of facing up to it and get on with it. We're inundated in today's world. Heaven bid last week, we announced the election. I'm just going to sort of throw my radio into the bin, I think, with the rubbish we're going to get there. Keep it focused on where you really are. That helps get rid of all the other rubbish. It gives you the clarity of mind in terms of what you're trying to do. We're going to play a quick video here from a client who kindly gave us a video testimonial. And the reason we ask for these is we know trust is a big element and a big restrictor for people to commit here. You've been wronged, most likely by the bank, the notary, the solicitor, the developer, the mortgage company, the whole lot. And we know we have cases, and there's another case coming up in a minute with Debbie and Dave. This one's from Paul, and he's going to explain, I think, pretty raw terms in what we do. When I say raw, what I love, he questions and says it was a bit expensive. They're a bit more expensive than I thought, but then, God bless him, he explains the value of what we do. And also, Paul didn't believe what we could do. He did not believe it. He was in a bad place. He didn't believe what we could do. I just want to show you here, I'm trying to sort of add, not that I need to, but I added more credibility in terms of what we're saying here. And he didn't really know what he wanted. He just knew he had this thing, and I just want it to go away. And he had a bit of a bad health experience, as we all do when we get a bit older here. And he wasn't really sure. And obviously he thought this was pie in the sky, some of the stuff we do here. Yet some people, for instance, really don't know what they want to do and get themselves so confused that they think we may have £100,000 shortfall and we could sort it out for X euros, say 20,000 euros, including fees. but I'm worried about my credit rating. And well, last time I looked, you can resolve a credit rating, but you can't resolve 100,000 if your property is not going to get that Hail Mary. So it's very important. It's just a 5-minute video, if you would, maximum. So if you could just listen to Paul here, I'll give you a bit more insight of what we do. It's not an advertorial. It's a real, genuine video, as is Debbie and Dave's in a while. It just shows you how confused, in a nice way, but intelligent people, but how confused because of misinformation that's going on. So here's Paul.
Hi, my name's Paul. About 20 years ago, I had a midlife crisis and bought a number of properties in the UK and Europe, several in Bulgaria, one in Spain, which is primarily the subject of this review. So at the time, people were just moving on the properties off plan before they even completed and making a profit. I thought, well, that's nice and easy, but it didn't turn out that way. I was sold off plan a property that was a very nice 2-bed apartment in Murcia in the southeast of Spain, and that was fine, but they tell you a story. The property value is higher than you would expect, and it's easy to rent. Well, actually, neither proved out. The capital value was hugely overflated, and bookings were very hard to come by. So I was pretty unhappy and struggling to meet the mortgage. Then I came across a possible vendor mortgage situation. I entered into a contract with a guy, which lasted 2 years, then he pulled out. So something came off the mortgage then, which I didn't have to pay for, but I was still covering all the other expenses. And when he stopped paying the mortgage, I had no funds or income to pay it myself. So that really started to increase. And then I came across EU Property Solutions and made contact with them, and I was very happy with the service. I thought their fees were a little high to start with. Then I realised actually what they were doing was huge. So they undertook the legal paperwork, the communication, negotiation with the bank, and in the end, what I really wanted to happen was I would simply give the keys back to the bank and they would wipe out the mortgage. And that's exactly what EU arranged. So I have got a shot of a property that was becoming a real millstone around my neck. I had no funds to be able to pay the mortgage and the fees were just adding up. So losing that property, I had to write off a fair bit, but actually it was worth it to be shot of it, and I would not have been able to get rid of it without EU. And Natalie was fantastic, her communication, emails, responding to my questions and the like. She was marvellous, and I'm sure she was representative of the whole company. So I would thoroughly recommend them, and I am a much relieved man as a result. So thank you, EU, and I wish you all the well with your next mortgage reliefs that you will give to your customers. Thank you.
So that's Paul. Thank you, Paul. So Paul had a pretty tough time health-wise, and it's very nice the kind comments he makes there, and they're always appreciated. Especially so here in Belfast, we have what we call the onboarding client team. In Leeds, we have my son and a couple of assistants there help drive the cases through. They're in touch every day with our legal teams, courts, etc., doing everything to make sure the cases get lined up properly, and we achieve whatever form of success we're looking for. Next thing I want to discuss is you and what you should do if you're faced with a foreign debt problem. Personally, my approach, and this is why, again, a bit of a big-headed so-and-so, I attack every problem, no matter what it is, be it business, especially for my clients and our clients, but also what I do in life. I don't procrastinate too much. I don't dive in every time, but as soon as I have something right in my head, I go and do it. Now, because Otherwise, it weighs too heavy on me. I'm pretty simple beast, and I don't want to carry garbage and crap around in my head. I'm telling you, you don't need this. So it's very important that you deal with it. Okay, if you get a threat from a client, be whatever form it takes, a creditor, sorry, a threat from a creditor, whatever form it takes, be it a letter in Spanish or in Greek from Cyprus, we get they're great letters to receive. That just looks at hieroglyphics. It's not good, and especially when you don't know what it says. Right? We have various facilities here we're going to offer as part of our offer at the end, where we can translate that straight away and know where we are. And it's not healthy. And usually, the only thing you can decipher, unless you speak Spanish or Greek, are the numbers, and that puts the fear of God quite rightly into a lot of people. There was one the other week, and they just got something, and all it said was 397 and 193. And again, where do they get this 590 euro from? And it was once you broke it all down, it's over a mortgage, we're going to get rid of the property, we've got to do this now. But that's all he could read in that letter. So again, it's that key where, for your own good, it's taking action. A threat from a creditor is a threat. You're not going to their Christmas do. They're not asking you out for dinner or a glass of beer. They're coming. Okay, whatever form it takes, they're slow, they come back, but they're coming. So it's very important to control that. And if you don't attack it, it only gets worse. And that can't be good for anybody. Cannot be good for anybody. I don't overly buy in too much about the mental health epidemic. But if it's there all the time, it's shocking, right? So that again, I'm trying not to be too dictatorial or preach about you have to do this. But that's what I do. If it's a problem that's resolved, let's go and resolve it. I think most people have that mindset. And it has to apply here. Now, the one bit of gold dust advice, whatever happens, and we never talk again, you throw this webinar in the bin and delete whatever we send you, etc. That's cool. But what you must do with foreign property debt is keep it in the jurisdiction it starts in. You must not let it get to your home country, such as the UK. Okay? We'll go through a bit more in a minute. So it's a case of, if it's a problem in Spain, keep it in Spain, whatever it takes. If it's in Cyprus, keep it in Cyprus, okay? And there's a little tactical nuance to that, because they're great at having a punch up in their own local country, but typically they find it difficult to go across from one place to another in terms of the legal battle. So you have to have troops on the ground, deal with the issue on the ground, keep it there. If it comes to the UK, we'll go through in a minute, we're too efficient. Our legal system, despite what other people say, if somebody gets a judgment or anything against you, our courts are too efficient. So it's make sure you get, hey, we'd love you to come on board, right? But get the right advisors that you know are talking what you think is common sense. Don't go for the lowest ticket item. I implore you, again, I don't care if you don't come with us in this matter, this is very important. Keep it in the country. Are they capable of keeping it in that country? Trevor in the high street in Oxted, wherever it is, that does the wills and the family work, he's got no idea. It's the right advice, 100%, and don't ignore the issues. Keep it in the country of origin. So really, really important, no matter what you do from here. If you leave it too long, it gives the creditor the chance to go through the process and ultimately get it here. Once it's in the UK, it's a different ballgame. It's tough, really tough. Still can be done, and we do a number of cases like that. But as an advice, if you have this latent fear of what you have in the UK, then it's very important you take that on board. Now, what I want to look at here are the different ways foreign debt is being chased and what stages they're at. Okay, so we start back with the real basics, particularly, say, in Spain, you have the development chasing you. Sorry, the development. The developer is a Cypriot issue usually. And you might be behind with the management fees because you've fallen out of love with the place. You might not have paid your IBI tax, etc. Which we can mop up if we're appointed on a case. They in turn get sent to, in the main, UK debt collectors. They're usually, excuse my stereotypical, usually Scousers or Glaswegians, chasing you, and they do have the ability to issue county court summonses and follow things through. But that's almost at the lower level, didn't keep up the bills touch. If you fall behind with things, you will get contacted by the lender direct, be they in Spain or Cyprus, asking what are you getting on with, what's going on here, trying to get you to engage. You do engage, invariably they're rude or not very sympathetic to your plight wherever you are. In their slight defence, they're punch drunk with all this rubbish. Then we're finding more and more where we're going into the situation of vulture funds and loan sales, and there are any number of companies getting involved in this now. It's particularly, I always refer to Cyprus legally as the Wild West. You've got some companies popping up that haven't even traded but are buying loan books. You've got Skycac, not bad to deal with as long as you're fully engaged. Then you've also got Do Value, who are quite a new guys. They're a property management company in the main, but they flipped over here. In Spain, you're starting to see Interim Justicia, and you're seeing the likes of Exacta and various others. So we've got a list of about 20 of these. These guys work on the basis they bought the debt. Okay, you'll never know what they paid for your mortgage, your shortfall, whatever, your judgment, whatever it is. And they just want their pound of flesh. They want a return on whatever they pay for the whole book. We'll never know. I'm sure the guys on the phone don't even know on the other side that are acting for, say, the likes of Exacta. They are far more ruthless. They do cross jurisdiction anyway. That's almost like their superpower. There's a big one here named after the three-headed dog, Cerberus. They were very strong here in Belfast. Did a lot of debt collection back in the last crash, and so they're out there, and they're coming for you, right? Because they're short term. They just want, they buy the book. They want to be out in a couple of years. They want to get the return and away they go. Let's go buy some more stuff. You get foreign solicitors that start issue proceedings, and very often, especially in Cyprus, they're sneaky. They will issue the proceedings to your address in Cyprus you may not get. And we've seen a couple of cases that where they client eventually stumbled over the post, and then you go, hang on a minute, what's going on here? And they're pretty tight on their deadlines as well in Cyprus. In Spain, they have this really crazy habit of always writing in Spanish when they know they're sending it to UK. And when you've got things like this that can translate on Google, translate brilliantly well, that's crazy, but that's what goes on. I mentioned earlier is the thing of whatever you do, like I say, take this bit of advice, keep the issue in the country of origin, right? Don't let it get back here. If you get a UK legal team on this, it's tough. It's really tough because they're going to be far more diligent. They know obviously our lay of the land. They know they've got their judgment, whatever it is from Spain or the repossession amount, and they know the legal process here, and they're running the case solely for their benefit, not the creditor, not you, whoever. They've got a tasty little case here. We can run up a load of legals, put it into court, do this, do that, and just let it drag on, or whatever they do. Anyway, as long as it mounts up the fees. If any solicitors are watching this, right, I singularly don't apologise for that statement. Okay, it's some of the stuff we see is quite disgraceful. The UK debt recovery system is brutally sharp, fast, clinical, date sensitive. You miss a day, you could have a judgment tomorrow, things like that. So the very, very important thing is to say to keep it out there. If you do get a UK legal team on it, right, again, don't go to Trevor in the high street, because Trevor's going to come up with some spurious thing. We don't believe the client owes it because it's foreign, right? So some garbage like that. So again, you need the very best and right advice. We at EU have developed a number of relationships with some of the key debt chasers for Spain and Cyprus, and invariably we can thrash something out with them without it getting carried away. Because if things do get carried away, the costs get totally out of control. If a bank comes here, say it's Sabadell, and they they get a judgment in Spain, they send it to England, they can enforce that more straight away. So they can apply for what's called an order charging land, which basically secures their debt on your home. And it's tough enough. We once had, what do we get? We got 39 cases from the land registry where Sabadell had done that. And I think we helped 16 of those clients get Sabadell off their property. As the costs mount, and by the time you've got to this stage where they've chased you, the lenders chased you, the foreign solicitors have chased you, they get the judgment, they come here, they've got the UK solicitor chase you, the actual creditor, the bank, their attitudes harden. especially if you've ignored them, not engaged with them, because they're just thinking, well, you don't want to pay it, we just got to do what we've got to do. Solicitors, go and do whatever you feel you should do to just get some money for us, please. The longer it's left, the worse and tougher it gets. I mentioned earlier a couple of times Debbie and Dave there, and there's another little video I want to show you here, and it's a slight advertorial, I'll tell you that now, because what they're saying is they didn't believe we could do what we could do. And I just want to get that across. I'd love you all as clients, whoever's watching this, right? But if you're not, and you're using this information, that's what it's about, and that's what the 15 minutes lot's about. But this is Debbie and Dave telling us that they didn't believe what we could do. Take it away, Debbie and Dave.
We was panicking then. We thought we're going to have to pay this full amount this money and just get rid of it, because it was causing a lot of worry. And then a friend of ours said, have you had a look online, and they recommended you. They haven't used you, I don't think, but they recommended you. They said, well,
no, she just typed in Spanish debt, UK box. So she just sent me the link. So I went on and read through that.
I must admit that was a problem for us, the trust thing, because you'd think we'd had all these problems in Spain. The lawyer that dealt with us, who's a Spanish lawyer who speaks English, who's from Liverpool, he led us down big time. We sent the letter through to him and never got back to us. We've rang his office, rang his Spanish office, rang his mobile, and he never returned any of our calls. So our trust was on a real law with anything to do with Spain, property, anything. It's just when we had the Zoom call with, who was the first person we spoke to? Was it Liam, first of all? And Liam said that, we've dealt with this kind of recovery thing before. We've dealt with Axetor before. And that kind of put us ease a little bit. Obviously, I had a look at you on the website as well. A look at what you do and that, and some of the comments. And then we then got through to somebody else. Somebody else was the next one.
No, it was Natalie.
Natalie.
Next.
And all the way through, it seemed professional. You told us straight away how much it was going to cost us. The other thing we did doubt and we worried about was you said that how much you could reduce the debt by. And I must admit, we thought
it was too good to be true.
Can't see that happening. Can't see you doing that. And then, but then we asked that question, and we was told that that they buy these in bulk, these debt people off the banks, and they buy them for, I think he said 10 pence the pound. Something, I can't remember exactly what he said, but it was quite cheap. He said, so there is a deal to be done, and we can do that deal, and we have done it before. And you just have to put your confidence in us, and we will get you a reduced fee. Yeah. And he mentioned that, did say it would be
between 10 and 20%.
Between 10 and 20%. But obviously the lower that you can get it, the more that you make, because you take a percentage of what we save, don't you? So it's in your interest. That was one of the things we thought, well, that's good, because it's in your interest to try and get it as low as you can, because then you make more money, don't you, off what we save. So but going back to your original question, we did have a lot of worries and concerns. And like you said, the trust thing's a big thing. And if you're already in debt with somebody who's coming after you, to pay somebody else to try and get rid of that debt for you or reduce that debt for you is a big trust thing, isn't it? So we did have a few issues with that, I must admit. And
we've never been in this situation before anyway. We just tried to get hold of our initial solicitor for 2 weeks, and he just was not getting back to us. So we were just like Dave said, we were already like, what we're going to do. But
somebody would talk to us for a start and give feedback to us when we rang them or emailed them. And Natalie kept us updated all the time, which was a big plus, because you worry. Thinking this is too good to be true. Are we really going to get it reduced? Is it going to get sorted? And she kept getting back to us. And every time we rang her with a query, she always got straight back to us the next day. Not that day, the next day. Which is when you're worrying about something as much as we've worried about this, because it's a debt, isn't it? And you're worried that they're going to come and have a go at your house, have a go at your assets over here. And for once, somebody got back to us and replied to us. And that was a big plus. And I think there's not many people do that anymore. They promise it, but they don't do it.
Hopefully you get a bit more insight there from Debbie and Dave. Thank you both for that. It's very kind. They get a I'll tell you now, they get a voucher from us for helping us with that sort of stuff. But it's important because, again, it's that trust element. And they too didn't believe that we could do what we could do. As I said earlier about in terms of why am I qualified to comment, one of the main things is we're continually updating our knowledge, our intellect, our USP, if you like, where we're looking at the continually changing landscape in the financial markets across these main markets that we deal in. For instance, in France, there's a lot of bank consolidation there. In Spain, you've got it shrunk after the last financial crash, and it's shrinking again. All the cajas, the local banks, got mopped up in the last crash, and now you're starting to see the likes of La Caixa are trying to buy Sabadell, which is a big enough bank on its own, and in each instance they consolidate. What they look to do is tidy up their books and sell the debt. If you've paid your mortgage on time right the way through, there will be still an assignment clause in your mortgage. Okay, so they say, right, that may form a group of others that haven't performed and things like that, but so they can sell that. That's what the assignment's about. So the debt gets assigned to Exact, Skycat, whoever you want, and they in turn aren't mortgage people. Right, they'd like their money back. They will start offering you deals. Okay, you may start hearing, for instance, in Cyprus from insolvency practitioners saying, "This is what we're going to do here. We want paying." So it changes that dynamic, and that's what we keep an eye on all the time. And sometimes we can take a client on and we're going in the normal protocols we've established with that organisation, and then it flips on its head. But we have to stay there. We stay there with the client right the way through, deal with it. If it takes time, it takes time. But that's what has to be done, because it is a changing landscape. But flip side of that, we undertook some research because we were trying to work out how many typically cases there are kicking around in this sense. And we were looking at negative equity, which is the mainstay of our business in terms of what we do. In Cyprus, the research shows there are still over 10,000 properties for UK residents that have the dreaded Swiss franc mortgage. I've commented about Swiss franc mortgages before, referred to them as the Antichrist and everything else there. And then we looked at the golf courses round and about the Murcia area, the Costa Blanca area, and there's still 12,000 just in that pocket, that area. That's quite a hotbed for us, and there's still 12,000 UK owners in negative equity. And it's the usual banks are coming up there: Bankia, La Caixa, Sabadell, Interbank, Cajasur. They're all there, but it's still a huge problem. So there's a change in landscape, but the one thing that isn't changing is the value. People hanging on till the end. I think this has still come round, right? These prices have gone so far down that now the Spaniards buy them because they're affordable, proper accommodation for them. The 250,000 penthouse, say in Corvera Golf, is now about 70,000. So they're not going to come back, those values. If you're hanging on for that, going back to the mindset thing, it ain't going to happen. I'm going to come back in a minute in terms of responsibilities we have as a certain generation. So we do that, like I said, we do that continual updates of where we are, and we do this worldwide. A little bit humble brag in here, where we say, right, we've dealt in America quite a few times, we've dealt in Canada, we've dealt in Poland, we've dealt in Bulgaria, Hungary, New Zealand, Australia, France, Germany, Ireland down the road from here, and Spain and Cyprus. But we've got to find out what's going on in each of those markets. And again, within that market, this is a niche. It's a very small sliver of stuff that didn't happen back in the day and it's never going to come back. But people still carry that legacy because they've done nothing about it. So again, it's still that, and they've all got that ability to chase if they want to from their countries. As I said earlier, we've got the vulture funds. We have to keep an eye on them. They change regularly. They change their protocols. They may start off being quite understanding. Then they get a bit more aggressive, and we just have to keep ahead all the time on it. We don't go. We like a quick win because it sorts our clients out, but we have to hang on sometimes when they, like I say, they change a protocol. Another thing that's changing, particularly in Cyprus, and you're finding more and more of the vulture funds are adopting, is the interest element of any debt, be it on arrears, be it as is. And a lot of these Cypriot mortgages, for instance, and a few of the Spanish ones we're finding here, there's another point here as well, is they compound the interest, which is absolutely brutal. The case we're referring to later, the guy owed, back in 2014, when he left the property, about €600,000. His writ that we eventually sorted out with our barrister ended up being about €970,000 in that period. And some of these compounding figures are just crazy. So it's very important to, if you're assessing where you are, is to make sure what that redemption figure is and looking at the interest interpretation, as they call it. Getting towards the end here in terms of this sort of presentation, and a little bit of our experiences of what lenders really want, especially when it's you're involved in some form of litigation and they get a bit litigious and get a bit antsy and they've had enough of you and whatever, right? Now, the key to it is they want engagement, even if it's late in the day. In the main, they're not, as individuals, highly motivated to do bad things to their customers. But as I said earlier, over time, their attitudes harden, and so do the costs, and so do the values that they sell things for if they have to repossess it. It gets quite nasty. They want engagement along the way. Be careful, because when you do your first bit of engagement with you, they'll treat you like you're a criminal. So, and you think they might have said, just reach out to us and everything will be beautiful in the garden, we'll all be okay. When you try to make a proposal to them, the natural default is no. And it's very important to understand that and go back and try. Invariably, there's some form of language barrier. Obviously, in the main, our fault because we can't speak the local lingo. If you can, that's a different thing. But it's very, very important to set out standards with the lender to make sure we do this civilly. You're fair to me, etc. I would say this: you undoubtedly need third-party representation because you need somebody who can field the difficult questions. If you're asked about the value of a house and the mortgage, you've got very little way to go with it. You've got to say it. If you've got third-party representation, we can dress it with our legal teams as to why you're asking that. We're not telling you. If you refuse, well, you're just refusing to get on with it. We're saying, hang on a minute, no, we're talking commercially here. So third-party representation is absolutely vital. Try and do it yourself. I'm trying not to cuss here, but you will cock it up. All right, it's really, really important to get any form of third-party representation. We're going back to what I was saying. You're dealing cross-jurisdictional here, so which is tricky. You need two good people doing it. And genuinely, most of the creditors we deal with are now pleased when we get involved because they feel there's going to be some sort of resolution. If you've got that case back there, 2014, and he left the property, ran up this big interest bill on top of everything else, they welcome it. No, so we're going to get this sorted. Yeah, they sort of, badmouth the client a bit, but that's okay. We're not going for a beer with them, as I always say. It's very important that we get that level of engagement and start talking to them and say, right, we're going to get this sorted. We're going to get this sorted. We're going to get this sorted. Okay. And if you've ignored it along the way, it's tougher because you're not enamored by them. They just don't like you. We have to break that barrier, but break it we do. Right? And they go, well, they haven't spoken to us since 2014. We're here now. Let's get it sorted. Yeah, but we're a bit disappointed. Cool. We're here now. And you have to say, right, let's go. We've got to break this down. And no matter what position we're in, faced in whatever country it is, if there's any form of litigation, threat, whatever, we have to proffer up a form of defence, weak as it may be. We've got to show, no, we're serious about this now. If you want to have the punch up, our legal team will have the punch up, but we're here to talk candy. We're here to get this sorted. We're here to everybody move on with their lives and back to our demographic. I mentioned a couple of times there about the case we did from a man called Mr. Evans, and he was a 2014 man, €600,000 about he owed on a couple of houses, up to 970 ended up, and he was way down the track. He employed a local solicitor, I think it was in Paphos in Cyprus, who did nothing, took €2,000. This is a big case. This needed serious defending, serious legals, all sorts of accusations. This guy was doing it on the cheap, and he contacted us when there was 10 days to the judgment being passed down. And we got the file, very little in it from the other side, just from our side. So we sat down with a barrister, worked it through. We managed to get the case adjourned and delayed, get speaking to the other side. We found a chink in their in their claims, which was one of the typical problems in Cyprus, is the lack of title deeds. And it was an issue that they would have really needed our help to resolve, no matter what they did. And yeah, they were cheesed off at the beginning that we left it late in the day, or our client had. Long story short, the houses were worth, I think, about 480 for the two. He had two there. And so 960, 970, 480. So he was looking at basically about £500,000 shortfall. We managed to get $500,000 euro currencies, and what we had to do was get them the two houses back plus 50,000 euro, and that was it. We had to do a little bit of work with them in terms of the title. Very often in Cyprus, you get this other problem of developers suddenly coming out the woodwork and putting the hand out and want some money. We sorted that out, or our barrister did with our help, and we got the matter resolved. But he was absolutely, I'm trying not to cuss again, he was absolutely knackered. 500 grand judgment in Nicosia, hammer would have gone down, straight to England, charge on his house. It's that quick. And that's what happens. Many people, that can't happen. It does. Going back to, you can be chased in the UK. So it's very, very important that we don't listen to that misinformation. I'm going to say, as a 64-year-old man, I'm going to talk about our demographic. I'd like to say, I think, in the main, I'm going to talk quite frankly here. If you have a debt problem and you've been sat on it for a while, right? I'll be very sort of American in my delivery here, but I believe it's your duty to sort it out and not pass it on to others. Because it gets incredibly bad. This morning we literally had a case where a gentleman was talking to us last year, and his wife, she's quite a quiet lady, I think it was about last October, all ready to go, decided to hold up. Unfortunately, this gentleman's now passed, and his wife, she's just struggling obviously in every sense, but with this problem it wasn't resolved. And it's we deal with a number of cases because our demographic, none of us are bomb-proof, that we're finding more and more prevalent. We've had cases where somebody's died and nobody else in the family knew that she had a property in Spain, but there was a charge on the property at home. It's one of those ones we talked about, Sabadell and their orders charging land that we dealt with. And it does not pass well down to the next generation. I had a sneaky look earlier. Some people sent over some questions quite kindly, and hopefully that's going to give you sort of an insight to our ability to react and advise and take advantage of that 15-minute session if you want one to discuss a debt issue. So it's your duty, I believe, to sort it out, and sort it out you must. You can't wait for that Hail Mary. I think the value will come back one day. If you've bought a place in Spain or Cyprus that was jerry built, it's on a development, isn't going to improve, they can't get the management fees, it's not falling apart, but the infrastructure's not good, the grass isn't, yada, yada, yada. It's not going to get better. And just hanging on for that big hope or that spurious thing of a credit rate, I don't know, those are all excuses. We don't judge mistakes. We don't judge your behaviour to debt. We don't care. Ours is a numbers game and getting our clients out of where they are. Okay, and we're able to do it. There's a gentleman across the office there, Stanley, who sometimes reaches out to some of our people that made inquiries but didn't come on board. And as he says, time's too short. Let's get on with it. So we don't care how it's happened. It is what it is, right? You get a lot of companies that are going around, let's do a class action against the Cypriot bank and yada, yada, right? Doesn't solve anything. That's another form of Hail Mary. It's not going to happen. So if you've got foreign debt issues, please deal with them. It's a polite phrase, okay? And like I said earlier, it's not good for your health. If the very mention of a property in Spain or so makes you go, oh goodness me, it's not healthy, right? Yeah, it's not great. You've got to cough up some cash, whatever the situation is. But and one of the questions earlier, talks about what do I do with it in my will? Don't put it in your will, right? It's got to be dealt with, but don't put it in your will. What sort of hand grenade do you throw into the next generation? It's just not on. You've got to deal with it. And again, a bit dramatic. I think it's your duty to sort it out for your family and media, etc. So, sorry, that was a bit of a preach, but I feel quite strongly about it. That case is very sad, but also quite annoying in that the guy really terrible. He died a while back now, but he was pretty selfish about it, and not too focused on what he had to sort. Anyway, that was a bit hot and heavy. Calm down. We have got a little off here. It's not one of these sort of, it is a bit salesy. I'll take it back. We are offering free with no obligation whatsoever. You know, we haven't got to commit to anything. If you want 15 minutes with me on any issue, right, there'll be some contact details at the end of this, and our guys are going to send you a bit of resource as well after this. If you want to come back to us and you want to book a slot, we want to get 15 minutes. It most likely be, here we are on Tuesday, it most likely be next week because I'm actually travelling to Spain myself. So it most likely be doing it with the sun in the background, not the clouds of Belfast. And if you need that advice, anything within reason, it's 15 minutes, so don't come up with a 26 pages of legal documents, everything else. We need a price and we see where we can go. But what I'm trying to do is help allay, either give you the right advice, which you may not like, or allay fears if it's not as bad as it seems. Another thing that we've recently started, given the trust issues that we have, we also do, for certain clients that can meet certain criteria, we now work on a no-win, no-fee basis, and we'll apply that to anybody that wants to come on board with us now. Another one we can do, if you're struggling with any documents that you're worried about, a bit like the Greek letter with the 2 figures in it, we have a free translation service on that. Not for your electric bills or a letter to the council or anything like that, and all that sort of stuff, but anything that's related in rough terms what we're discussing here. And also anybody that comes on board stemming from this this webinar, I don't like this, but hey, we've got marketing people, we're going to reduce the fees by 15%. So it's just a couple of things to offer if you want them. But the free consultation is genuinely there from me to you. If you're really worried about something, just chat away. If it's just gnawing in your mind, it might be, you might just need confirmation or something or whatever, but it's just there, and that's a genuine offer. So finally, we did get 4 questions in. I'm just going to have to read those if I may. So the first question is, I have not drawn down on my lump sum from my pension. Is that a risk with a foreign debt in the background? Okay. Typically, no. It's very important, though, to know the details of the pension. Okay, but typically, no, it's outside. So, nobody's going bankrupt here, right? Bankruptcy in the UK is a slight grey area, but nearly always the guy that has the pension or lady that has the pension keeps it even in bankruptcy. So that's the measure there. What you wouldn't want to be doing is drawing down the day you're falling out with a bank or something like that. So it's a bit of timing, a bit of presentation, but invariably it should be safe. But again, if you want any more information on that, reach out to us. The next one we have here is what details do I have to supply in respect to my asset and liability statement when faced with a foreign mortgage shortfall? From our angle, and when you're talking to us, we need full transparency. Part of our mantra, if you like, is we're looking to protect any UK assets that are exposed. So if you paid off the mortgage on your house and you're sitting on £500,000 worth of the house, but you have a shortfall in Almeria of 120,000. You know, that's our job. We need to understand that. If a bank, then we go to our solicitor and say, right, we're a tricky one. We're worth 500. We've got to work the oracle. Nothing untowards. We have various things. So, for instance, Spain, we even use the 1135 Civil Act. We use any amounts of any legislation to support what we're doing. We have a number of arguments. The one in Cyprus is that we are where we are. There is a thing called a DTA, which we look to attack. So we need to know everything. It's then for us and our legal team to work out how they work from there. If you go to the bank and you go, day one, I want to talk about this. This is what I'm worth, right? You do leave yourself exposed. There's no two doubts about it. But it's anything we do, no matter what side. So this is the EU side of the business. We have 20 people out there working on Bell & Company. If you want the link there, I'll put that in the resources. It shows a little bit of magnitude and where we get our expertise from. But it's all about the presentation. You may have a 500 grand house, but if it's jointly owned and the other person's not on it and you can't access any money because you're a certain age, we can build up a profile on a case with your help and your circumstances. And every case is different. Every solution is bespoke. 2 more questions we have here, right? How is a negative property in Cyprus, this is that question I was talking about, the pensions, dealt with in my will, and what is the executor of my estate's role in dealing with such an issue? So a negative equity, putting it in the will, and we're talking about the executor that's going to be appointed. First off, if I was the executor, I wouldn't take that role. I don't need that. As an executor, I'm sure most people know, their job is to sort out somebody's estate after they've passed, including all the liabilities, the credit cards, the old tax bill, whatever it is. And if you've got a piece of crap, excuse my French, that needs sorting in Cyprus, that's a big commitment. That's a big commitment. Not the easiest place to deal with. So again, it comes back to that taking some action if you have a problem there. And I find it quite disturbing that someone would say, well, if it goes into my will, don't put it in your will. It goes back to that. That's some legacy to leave somebody in it. And I just don't do that. Get it sorted, because you may have reasons selfishly you want to keep your light going there, whatever, but don't. No, don't. Sorry, I was going to use a rugby phrase, which was totally inappropriate, but no, just don't do that. Final question, then I'll let you go. How do I deal with a Spanish mortgage being pursued when my divorced husband will not engage? That is not easy. That is not easy. We can come to any number of settlements with Spanish banks in different ways, but they do need the involvement. You don't have to get too carried away with it. And if say there are 2 parties, both parties, there needs to be a level of engagement. It is very tough. We do a number of divorces, and if somebody's estranged, and we know how emotive divorces can be. It's the great classic, the 3 Ds. Debt, divorce, and death, the worst things you could ever mix. And it's tough. It's tough. What we need to do, if it was me and I was acting, I would be saying, right, where is this guy? He is responsible for it. And there are a couple of things you can do to coerce them to the table. Sometimes divorce lawyers, obviously they've revved the situation up and they can say things. Again, they can speak out of turn. Even if there's a divorce agreement that says that, say, this lady here, she's going to deal with it, he's still obligated. He's on the mortgage. It doesn't matter what it says in the divorce settlement. That's garbage. That's a commitment to do something, and if you don't commit, you don't do it. But it doesn't matter. Say it's UCI, they go, we don't care. You're both on it. Yeah, but we got divorced. It doesn't matter. You took the mortgage. You haven't resolved it. So there's ways of coercing, but it's tough. Yeah, that's a tough one. But again, we do them, so it's a case of what we look at. If you have any other further questions, we're going to put some contact details on the end here, and just reach out to us, and I'll come back on them personally. And again, along with that 15-minute offer there. Then finally, we're going to put our contact details, like I just said there. We're also going to send a small, what we call it, a resource centre, which includes our no-win, no-fee guide, most recent newsletter, which is marketing stuff that makes us all look very pretty. They are very pretty, the young team. I'm just the ugly old so-and-so. There's an ebook if you haven't had that. But also there's we're finding a lot of people, because we've got quite a bit of content up there on our a YouTube link, and that'll be in there as well. So that's us. I'll let you go. Hopefully it gives you a bit more insight. And again, I'll just go back. Take the decision. Keep it in the country where it emanates from. Just get it on and deal with it. And if we are of a certain age, don't leave that as your wrong legacy. Thanks for your time. Good luck. Any questions, just reach out. Thanks. Bye-bye.